2. Okay. Okay, go ahead, darling. Hello, hello. Just waiting now, waiting for everybody to show up.
Hello.
Yeah, good. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. Good for the waves.
You want to wave hello?
I'm gonna get everybody in here and flip through the screen here in a minute. It looks like we've got 11 more people already waiting in the waiting room, Arlene. Hey, Claire. Let's see. Lots of new faces. Lots of new faces and names for me. Maybe I've talked to some of you by email, but I've not seen your faces before. That's great. And look at some of you've already gotten yourselves prepared. You read the email. I'm so impressed. And for those of you who haven't read the email, let me just go ahead and start telling you the setup in case you want to start getting yourself ready. You're going to need to be able to put your feet on the wall or a door, something that doesn't move when you put your feet against it and press it a little bit. And I don't have to see you, but if you want to be seen so that I can give feedback, then please do that. And I'll introduce myself again in a minute. We're still getting people coming in. So we've got this new little waiting room feature, as you probably know, and it's actually not a new feature, just nobody was using it until this whole Zoom bombing thing started. And so people go into a waiting area now in order to try to help maintain control and privacy over the group. We haven't really quite figured all that out yet. Good. So I think we might be about ready to be able to begin. So I'm Cynthia Allen, and it's very good to have you here. And for those of you who maybe couldn't get in last time because we didn't realize we need to upgrade our account beyond 100, we have done that this time, so we could handle up to 500 today. So I don't think we'll hit close to that, but we certainly won't have the 100 person limit that we had last time. I apologize that happened. And really, I thought that because everybody being in, and I know you have many Zoom opportunities, or most of you have many Zoom opportunities right now, depending on your background. Some of you are Feldenkrais practitioners, are Feldenkrais students already, so you have opportunities. But others of you really haven't found much yet, so I wanted to offer a couple of things before the summit started to allow you to connect in with yourself during this long period of feeling the tenuousness of life, right? I mean, we're all more aware of that now. And so this title, The Ground Beneath, I really was thinking about, how do we know we have support? How do we know our strength in the world? And so in one of the works that I've studied, and I'm a senior trainer in Ruthie Alon's movement intelligence work, and particularly in her Bones for Life quadrant. She has an umbrella of works, and Bones for Life is one of them. We talk a lot about how you're not only supported by the ground, but how pressure travels through you, how you allow pressure to travel through you. And so we're going to be exploring both the support of the ground and how you let pressure travel through you. And to do that, we're going to start with you lying with your head towards the wall, and your head will be about 1 inch or 2 inches from the wall. So your head should not be touching, but it shouldn't be a real long ways away from it either. So the head towards the wall. And I'm going to give you a moment to start arranging that, and I'll start looking around to see how you're doing with that. Your head towards the wall. And then you're going to need a place on the wall for you to put your hands or your feet that you could press. You're not going to be pressing hard, but usually we wouldn't want to be pressing on, say, a mirror, for example. Good. That's looking good. People are looking good. Let me go to the next page here. Nice. Now, also, as you're lying there with your head on the ground, and you can take your glasses off, I really recommend it in this case. You want to be sure that your head, your neck is in a fairly neutral position. Now, people will often immediately start trying to adjust their head and their neck by muscular force. We don't want to do that. So if you feel that your chin is closer to the ceiling than your forehead, that there's a deeper curve in your neck than would be helpful, then you want to put a small towel underneath your head and see if you can start to bring your forehead and chin to a parallel to the floor position. So if your nose wasn't in the way and you wanted to balance a board on the forehead and the chin, it would be plumb, it would be level, is how you could judge that. Looking good. Go through to my third page here. Yeah, great. And this is important because we're going to be sending pressure through the skeleton, as you do every time you walk or you sit up or you stand up. You're putting, particularly standing up, climbing stairs, walking, you're putting pressure through your entire skeleton. And one of the things that happens is that, no, well, that is really a bummer. Somebody is not getting in at 100, even though I've paid for 500 people. Okay, Arlene's looking into that, but I don't know that I can do anything about that now. So we're going to be passing pressure through your skeleton. And when you pass pressure through the skeleton and things are not in a neutral position at that moment, it creates shear force. And then once you have shear force in play, then other things start to happen, like muscular effort or difficulties to try to reduce that shear force. So as you're lying here with your head towards the wall, your head is towards the wall, not your feet. Your head is towards the wall. Then have your legs long for a moment if you're comfortable with them stretched out. If you're not, then please have the feet in standing. Just feel your breath as you're lying here. Your head is towards the wall, Alexandra. Yeah, there you go. And just feel your breath arising and falling, and feel the ground beneath you. Now, of course, it's a floor, and I don't think anybody here is lying outside, but it's still the ground. And how do you know that you're supported there by the ground? How do you know that you're supported by the ground? Well, you feel probably some points of pressure, some points of contact, and then you probably feel some areas where there isn't a lot of contact. And you can just notice the feeling behind your low back and the feeling behind your neck. Just being curious there at how much space there is on the right side of your low back, on the left side of your low back, compared to the space behind your neck. And you also are noticing whether it's comfortable to lie like this right at the moment. And just kind of get a sense of your own level of comfort. Now, bring your right foot to stand, but wait for a moment. I'm going to give you a specific way that comes more from the Bones for Life work than from the Feldenkrais work. And that way is to begin to bring your knee in the air towards the ceiling as you slide your heel towards your sitting bone. So it's not this frog leg way that we learn in Bones for Life, in the Feldenkrais work, but in Bones for Life, we often use this way where the knee stays towards the ceiling and the heel slides towards the bottom. So there's not the need going out to the side. And then as you slide it there, there'll be a certain moment that you'll feel like that's a comfortable place for me. And then, of course, you can come to the left leg and begin to slide the left knee up in the direction of the ceiling, letting it bend as the heel slides towards the sitting bone. And then you have both feet in standing, what we call in standing. So both feet are flat on the ground and they're in a place where they feel like they can be supportive to you. Now you have your arms, your hands, and begin to slide your hands onto your belly and then up towards the fingertips, traveling up towards your breastbone. And then slide it back down and off to the sides. So just get used to this idea that the hands could slide onto your belly and the fingertips could start to slide towards the breastbone, almost like your fingertips are tracing out your midline towards your mouth. So up through the breastbone, up through the throat, towards your mouth, and then slide them back down the middle again and off to the sides. And then again, begin to slide your hands up the middle, up the breastbone, up the throat, up the face. Coming across your face, maybe touching your face, and then sliding back down again. And we're particularly interested in starting to learn how to bring the hands along the midline without the elbows kicking out to the side. Instead, as you trace this midline and you repeat the movement, the fingers coming up the midline, you might feel how your elbows are starting to fold in a little bit, not squeeze, but they just follow the movement and allow you to have the elbows coming a little bit more towards the center as your hands now go over your face, your nose, your forehead, and slide off your hair to the wall above your head. Now, when they slide off your hair to the wall above your head, turn the hands so their palms are towards the wall. The fingers are facing down. The heels are towards the ceiling. Turn so your palms are on the wall, not the back of your hands. Yeah, and this is very disorienting for quite a large number of you. I see that. There you go. There we got some of, yeah. So just take your time with that. And already you're thinking, many of you are thinking, this is not a fun position. I don't really like this. And that's going to be okay as long as it's not painful. It's okay that it's not fun yet. And then just push lightly into the wall with your hands, just very lightly, and then let it go. Just do that a couple of times just to feel where your hands are and how does pressure travel from your hands down through your body. There you go. Okay, now fold your hands back in and drag them back down your body, sliding back down your midline off to the sides. So one of the things that we do in Bones for Life is we look for these restoration, and we do this in the Feldenkrais method too. So Ruthie Alon was, a Feldenkrais practitioner for, well, a lot of years, close to 50 before she started developing her work in Bones for Life. So she's very, very much as a senior trainer of the Feldenkrais method. Her work is very compatible with Feldenkrais. So one of the things that we're interested in is this restoration of the sort of the anatomical sweet points or aspects of a joint. And this movement that we're doing with the hands is starting to restore a very basic, important rotational movement in your shoulder joint. And then as the hands come up to the wall, you can bring them up this time and coming up the midline again, touching your body, feeling the contact of the hands against your body, providing a sense of safety for yourself with that contact. And when the hands find the wall again this time, start to see if you can bring the hands to be so that the forearm and the upper arm at about a 90-degree angle. So that means the hands will not be down close to the head. They'll be higher than the head. And for some of you, you're going to go, oh, that is really not comfortable. And so if it's really not comfortable for you, please do lower them again. So we want to play at the edge of your learning, which will be something unfamiliar, but we don't want it to be painful. And then your elbows will have about a 90-degree bend in them. And if they don't, it means your body is too far from the wall. So about a 90-degree angle. Now, in this place that you've chosen for your hands, and you can play around with it a little bit more, begin to breathe out. And as you breathe out, you will press lightly through the heels of the hands. And as you breathe in, you will release that. You breathe out, you'll press, you'll breathe in, you'll release. And after just 2 or 3 movements, your wrists may feel fatigued. And so that's a time to stop, fold your arms back in towards your head, slide them back down your body. We're not going to do a lot with this movement today. We're going to start out with it because it's such a foreign and unusual movement. And so many of you have been responding to the question in the summit emails about what are you struggling with. So many of you have been talking about shoulder and neck problems. And this is a very restorative process for shoulders and necks. When you are ready, let's change it up a little bit and slide your left heel away from you, straight down away from you until your left leg is long. Leave your right foot standing with the knee bent and begin to slide just your right hand up your midline, feeling how the elbow comes along only when it needs to lift, only when it needs to follow, instead of lifting early to try to bring the arm up into the air. Let the hand lead the way and the elbow becomes just a follower. And then the hand comes to the wall, opens the palm to the wall, the fingertips are down. That's it. That's nice. And you're going to begin to breathe in and out, following that in and out breath. And now let's see if we can start to understand more about how, when you breathe out and press, how that affects the shape of your neck. So you're going to breathe out, press, and just be curious. Is there anything happen in the length or the shortening of your neck? And you could even put your left fingertips underneath there to feel the space a little bit and wonder, is there anything happening there? Because when you were crawling on all fours as a baby, or in our evolutionary history when we were crawling on all fours, that pressure through the hands is what educated the shoulder girdle. The pressure through the arms is what educated the shoulder girdle and educated the neck. And so we don't get an opportunity for that very often. So as you press there, notice, does the back of the neck shorten? That is, the chin come away from the breastbone, or does the back of the neck get long? That is, the chin might get closer to the breastbone. And you're not trying to make anything special happen. You're just feeling, you're just sensing. And then after you've done maybe 2, 3, or 4, that'll be enough. And you're going to fold that arm back in, let the hand go down your body, slide down the middle of yourself. And then you'll switch over your legs. The other leg will go long. And now you'll bring your left foot is on the ground flat and the knee is towards the ceiling, and you'll bring your left hand up along your midline, across your forehead, across your head, until it reaches the wall, and turn so that the fingertips are down and the palm is towards the ceiling. And you're going to breathe out and press. Ruth, have you turned up your speakers, Ruth? I can see I guess I'm just going to need to stop and ask and do a sound check. It looks like people are able to hear me. Is that correct? Can you put some hands up if that's correct? Okay. So I think, Ruth, it's something on your side. Just double check that your speakers are up at their maximum for you. So as you breathe out and as you press, you're feeling and sensing what is happening in the neck. Does the motion get in past your arm, in past your shoulder girdle to speak to the neck? Does it go further down the neck? Does it maybe make it all the way down to the low spine, lumbar spine, the low back? And then that's enough. Fold that hand back in when you're ready. Slide it back down your body and slide your leg long. So now about this point, I think it's kind of a little bit of a mystery, like what in the world could really happen there, because we're not used to this kind of pressure. We've lost our connection with the ground in all fours. It's an unusual position. But if you're going to be supported by the ground force when you're on 2 feet, you need to have a responsive skeleton all the way up and down that can accept that support. And accepting of that support is that it allows it to flow through you in a way that does not create shear force. It does not create localized wear and tear. Now, very gently and slowly, you're going to get to roll onto your side and sit up, and you're going to turn around, and now you're going to get to put your feet on the wall, as I said in the email. I just wanted to start with this more unusual position first, but I could never have explained that in email. So please turn, take your time, and put your feet on the wall so that your lower legs are parallel to the ground, parallel to the floor. And there's about a 90-degree angle between your knees and your pelvis and your torso. Now, there's a caveat to that. If that does not feel good on your knees, then please back away until it feels okay. Also, if you put one foot on the ground and just one foot on the wall, you don't want the toes to be stubbed up against the wall or having to turn the foot out at awkward angles. So then that would also mean you need to back away from the wall a little bit. So we're all built differently and we all have different issues going on. So you just take your time to find a way to bring the feet to the wall, and it feels like it's going to be an okay angle for you. Good. Good. Now, as you are lying here and your feet are on the wall, let's go ahead and put the left foot down on the ground, just the left foot down on the ground. So the right foot is on the wall, the left foot is down. And have your hands maybe lying beside you. And begin to follow that breath in and that breath out, to notice that there is a kind of wave-like motion that happens when you breathe. It's like a wave coming in and a wave going out. And in fact, the wave probably has some impact on the belly muscles and the contents of your belly and even your low back. If you really tune in, it's a small movement, but for most people, as they breathe in, they'll feel a wave that takes their weight of their pelvis a little bit down towards the bottom of the sacrum or the tailbone. And when they breathe out, they'll feel a little bit of a weight shift a little in the direction of the low back, the waistline. Now, as you just continue to take your normal breath in and your normal breath out, please begin to press through your foot on the out breath and then release on the in breath. So you press on the out breath and you release on the in breath. And if you feel like your breath is really fast and that feels like it's not a very enjoyable movement, you could slow it down just a hair. You breathe out, you press, you breathe in, you release that pressure. Now, as you get used to this, and we're more used to our feet in this position, aren't we? That this 90-degree angle of the ankle, the foot probably, unless you have a recent injury, isn't feel stressed by this the way your ankle did, by the way, or way your wrist did, by the way, or your arm. But as you continue to do this movement of pressing as you exhale and releasing the press as you inhale, please begin to notice what happens in the low back. What happens in the low back? So is there some kind of counter pressure when you press through the wall? Is there some kind of counter pressure that travels from the foot on the wall up into the bones of the leg, into the pelvis, and into the low back? Mm-hmm. And when you release the pressure, what changes in the shape of the low back then? What happens then when you release the pressure? So, how is the shape of the low back and the weightedness on the pelvis changed by breath out and pressing, and then breath in and releasing? And it looks like most people are feeling something in their low back. Most people are feeling something in their low back. But how much further up your body do you feel it? How much further up? Does it make it up to your mid back, to your shoulder blades? Does it make it to your neck? So life has some pretty challenging, jarring events, doesn't it? And when we have ways of interpreting that jarring going through our skeleton that we can absorb, it really means that we know how to diffuse, that it travels through us in a pattern that's healthy. And so one of the patterns that it could travel through us in that's healthy is called what we call a wave motion. So let's pause with that for a moment. Let's put your foot on the ground. And just feel your 2 feet. They are on the ground in a similar position. And then bring your left foot to the wall. And this foot's going to feel different. Just notice the difference in the sensation. Sometimes we don't have any awareness of how different our left and right sides of ourselves function until we just take a moment to feel, sense, get the cues. And now, as you come back to your breathing, breath in, breath out, your normal breath, when you're ready, begin to press through your left foot on the out breath, on the breath flowing out, and release it. Release that pressure on the breath flowing in. Breath flowing out, breath flowing in, and you press on the exhale and you release the pressure on the inhale. Is there a difference in how the counter pressure travels through you on this side? There often is. One foot, one side is often much better organized for pressure to go all the way through or much higher. Now, of course, if anything about this is uncomfortable, many people have low back issues. Usually, this is really a great lesson for most low back issues, but there's always going to be some exceptions. So please do not continue to do something that does not feel right for you. That's extremely important. And you can take breaks and pauses any time that you like. Good. Okay. And then pause with that for a moment and put your 2 feet on the ground again. Arlene's in the background trying to figure out why we got a limitation here on people. I spent 5 days trying to get through Zoom help with a series of questions. And I finally got through many hours every day, just sitting there every once in a while, telling them I was still there. They are so swamped with the number of people who are doing online programs now. It's such a blessing though, isn't it? Such a blessing to be able to do this. Now, when you're ready, please bring your right foot back to the wall and put your left fingertips a little bit underneath the left side of your low back if you're able to do that comfortably. And as you breathe out, begin to actively invite this wave of breath that's traveling up through you. Just support it with a little pressure through the foot on the wall. So it's like already that wave motion is going to happen, and then you support it. You just do a little bit more with the foot on the wall. And just notice what changes in the space behind your low back with those left fingertips. What do you feel over there that happens? And it doesn't have to be all the way in. It could just be just a little bit barely on the side, just enough to give you some feedback. And just 2 or 3 movements that way so you can feel what changes there in the space behind the low back every time that you breathe out and you press, and then every time you breathe in and you release. And then pause for a moment and take your left hand and put it underneath your neck. And feel there, what happens in that space? Does the pressure from the foot travel through the skeleton in such a way that something has changed in that space? Now, some people will feel that the back of the neck is lengthening and getting closer to their fingertips or closer to the floor. Some people will feel absolutely nothing is changing in the shape there. And others will feel that the neck is arching, that the space is getting deeper. So just notice what you feel. Okay. And then let that go for a moment. Bring your hand down, maybe rest your foot. Of course, if at any time you need to roll over onto your side and take a break, you need to sit up, you need to do something different. That's all within your right, your even I would say your responsibility to do for yourself. But it's hard to learn to know how to take care of ourselves. That's not simple. So I'm just giving you permission to claim that. When you're ready, please bring your left foot to the wall. Put your right fingertips a little bit behind your low back. And as you come back to following your breath in, breath out, press on the out breath. and release on the in-breath. And begin to feel how the counter pressure travels up through you into your low back. And how is it different on this side than it was on the other side? Maybe it's not, but it might be. And then begin to notice what's happening in your neck. So move your hand up into the space behind your neck, your right hand in the space behind your neck, and find out there. Does the pressure from this left foot make it up further in your body or less distance? Mm-hmm. Good. So you're discovering how do I let pressure travel through my body? How do I let it travel through on my left side? How do I let it travel through on my right side? And now let's see if we can start to add some new elements that might improve it. So rest your feet for a moment. And then slowly turn yourself around and put your head back towards the wall. Take your time to roll up in a way that's simple and easy and supportive for your neck and your head. And turn and put your head about an inch or two from the wall. Hmm. And have your right foot in standing and have your left leg down long. And you don't want to have your right foot like plastered against your left leg. It needs to have a little bit of space. I like to say it should be kind of in line with your sitting bone or your hip joint, but it shouldn't be plastered up against the other leg. And then slowly bring your right hand up through the middle of your body in this unusual arcing motion that we've been learning, traveling with contact if you can be comfortable. So, like the ground beneath you is also sometimes your body is like the ground and you're sliding your hand across it, and it does something very interesting for the nervous system. You bring your hand to the wall, you turn the palm towards the wall so that the fingertips are down towards the baseboard and the heel of the hand is up. Now, if you have been finding that that's just not doable for you, you could make a fist and use the back of the flat part of the knuckles. Okay, so I actually encourage people to try to do the hand if it's just a bit of discomfort, but if you have any kind of injury or difficulty, you can use the fist. Because the reason that it's something that rapidly improves. We are meant to be able to weight bearing through our hands and arms, but we haven't done it. So if you haven't done it, it's not going to feel good in the beginning. It should start to feel better pretty rapidly if it's going to be okay for you to explore today. So whether it's the fist or the hand on the wall, begin to follow the breath again, and as you breathe out, you press through the hand, and as you breathe in, you release. And you might notice that something's changed, that from being turned from the feet on the wall now when you come back to it, that maybe there's a little bit better quality of how this is traveling down through you. But we're gonna add to it. So you feel how your chin is in relationship to the breastbone. There's space there. Every time that you press, lower the chin a little bit closer to the breastbone so that you lengthen, the back of the neck is lengthened. And every time you release, lift the chin a little away from the breastbone as if you want to look at the hand on the wall above your head. So you breathe out and you press, the chin comes down. You breathe in, you release, the chin comes up. You breathe out, you press, the chin comes down. You breathe in, you release, the chin comes up. That's it. And just do that 2 or 3 times, and then you take a break with this arm, this hand. And then as your hand comes down, let's let it rest beside you. Change over your legs. So the left foot will be in standing now, the right leg will be long. And bring the left arm up over your body, tracing your midline, touching yourself as you go if you can be comfortable with that. Bringing the hand up over the face, through kind of the hair and then to the wall. Turning, opening the palm to the wall. And if you're comfortable bringing it up closer to a 90-degree angle, do that. If you're not, then you put it where it needs to be for you right now. And as you breathe out, you will press. And as you breathe in, you will release. And you'll feel the changes that are happening across the back of your body right now. We want to have that when your arm has pressure, that it educates, that it brings a length to your neck, not that your neck collapses underneath that pressure. So we're looking to send pressure through a neutral, stacked cervical spine. So we're going to add a little intervention, you could say, that as you breathe out and press, you'll also lower the chin. So you're going to artificially kind of lengthen the neck just a little bit. And then as you breathe in and you release, you will raise the chin and bring it out of that lengthened position. And this does not have to be huge movements. Doesn't have to be huge movements. Small is good. The amount of pressure that you use in the wall actually turns out you don't have to use hardly any at all. But in the beginning, it feels like you need to use so much just to make a little something happen. Now, as you do 2 or 3 more of those and you're bringing the chin up and down, begin to notice, are your right toes moving in space? Do they perhaps, every time you press and you bring the chin down, do the toes perhaps point out a little bit, just a hair towards the middle of the room? Okay. Slowly bring your hand back down your body. I can see that I'm watching. I see when some of you are becoming fatigued. So bring your hand down, bring your leg down for a moment. Let's try the right leg side again, just one more time. So bring the right knee up to standing. Bring your right hand back over your body to the wall above your head. Or if you wanted to do the left again, you could do that. If you want to take a break right now, you can do that. And as you find the hand on the wall and you feel your breath arising and falling, start to time your pressure. So you breathe out, you press, you lower the chin. And what happened in your left toes? You breathe in, you release, you raise the chin. And we're going to start to involve those toes. You breathe out, you press, you lower the chin, and you point the left toes away from your body. out into the center of the room. And when you release, flex the ankles so the toes come towards your shin bone. As the chin rises, as the breath flows in, the toes also point towards the shin bone. You press, you breathe out, you press, chin comes down, toes point. You breathe in, you release, chin rises, the toes flex towards the shin bone. So we're starting to thread from both directions, re-educate all these joints, all these vertebrae from both directions about how wave-like motion could travel through them. And when you're ready, you can do maybe one or two more if you want, but you can also stop, right? You can stop. So everybody's in charge of finding what is just the right amount of learning for you right now. Mm-hmm. And when you let it go, let your arms come down, let your legs go long. And just notice, is there some kind of difference now about how you're lying on the floor when you're a little stretched out compared to when you first were lying in this position? Some things changed in about the way that you feel the ground beneath you. And is that the ground that changed, or is that your capacity to accept its support that's changing? And please roll through your side up to sitting and turn and put your feet back on the wall. Take your time.
Please raise the volume of your voice a little. You're fading away.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I can do that. Is that better? Okay, so have your right foot on the wall, please, and your left foot on the ground. Have your arms down beside you for the moment, unless you need them on your belly to be comfortable. And come back to your breathing, where you breathe out and you press through the foot gently, developing a sense of streaming pressure through the skeleton. We're wanting to let each of these individual vertebrae articulate in relationship to each other. Let a wave travel through. And begin to notice, is it travel up you a little further now? Now that you turned and you went back to the hand on the wall, does it travel a little further? Is it maybe making it between the shoulder blades, maybe making it up to your neck? And we're going to add that as you press and you breathe out, you're going to raise that chin a little bit away from the breastbone, like you want to look up into the middle of the room. And as you breathe in and you release the pressure, the chin comes back down towards the breastbone and the back of the neck lengthens. That's it. And do that 2 or 3 or 4 more times. It's a lot to coordinate, isn't it? Breath, pressure, lifting. But actually, once you do it a few times, what happens is that you don't need to do all these extra movements. The pressure starts to flow through you. Now, pause with the pressure. Just leave the foot on the wall for a moment, and we're going to do a slightly different movement. So we're not going to time it to the breath this time, but you're going to press and release in a very rapid way. So it's kind of like you're going to send a little vibratory force up through your skeleton by doing very quick Bing, 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 bing. Make it as light and as quick as you can make it. That's right. Now, when you make it really light and quick, you might find, oh yeah, there's my back changing shape. Change, 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 change. But the neck, a lot of times the neck doesn't yet. So it's interesting to notice where in the chain does the motion, the vibratory motion maybe get stuck. And then let that vibratory motion go and come back to slow, timed with the breath. You breathe in, you release, you breathe out, you press. You breathe in, you release, you breathe out, you press. Just gonna have to respond here to someone's message. So maybe after that little vibratory motion, you might feel like things are going up through you a little bit more, and you may not have to lift your chin as much. It might now know how to lengthen upon the press. And if not, you know what you can do in repeating this over the replay or on your own, how to play with it. When you're ready, you can let that go, put that foot on the ground, and switch over your legs. And so your left foot is on the wall, and you begin to find your nice, easy breathing. Press as you breathe out, release as you breathe in. And start to track, how does the motion travel through you? How does your spine, how does your body interpret it? Can it allow it as a wave to go all the way through and out through the top of your head? Or is it stopping somewhere along the line? And then you can add this element of lifting the chin as you press, and lowering the chin as you release, and lifting as you press, and lowering as you release. You could also do this little jiggling motion. Stop for a moment, release the timing with the breath. Just let your breath go on in the background uninterrupted, and just jiggle real quickly. Just use a little vibration. Vibratory movement often gets much deeper into the muscular holding, allowing something new to happen. That's nice. Good. Okay, and let that go. Come back to slow, timed with your breath. And when you're satisfied that you've played with that enough to be interesting to you, let your foot come to the ground. And then once your both feet are on the ground, begin to think about how could you maybe sort of crawl on your back away from the wall? What would be a crawling like motion on your back away from the wall? Yeah, it's something to figure out, because a lot of us can do an inchworm kind of motion, but a crawling kind of motion, but on your back, might seem a little unfamiliar. So that could be a good one to play with. And we could do a lot more with that some other time, but it's if you can figure something out that's a little more like a crawl until your legs are long, let your legs go long, you might discover some really nice way of introducing other kinds of movement into your back and your torso. And then when your legs are long and they're no longer touching the wall, just have a little pause. Feel and sense how the ground beneath you now is supporting you? Is it more comfortable for you to be in this position? Are there fewer pressure points? And then slowly begin to roll yourself through a side up to sitting. Roll yourself through up to sitting and then up to sit for just a moment with your head towards the sky and feel the support underneath your bottom, your rear. And then when you're ready, come up to stand. And feel yourself in standing. So now you have 2 feet, a supportive 2 feet. And how is that? How is that for you? Does there's something feel a little bit more solid about how the ground force, just when you're standing still, there's still a ground force traveling up through you that supports you? Does it feel like perhaps your spine knows something a little bit more about how it can stack itself in a position of power for uprightness? And without you having to try to stand upright, something a little bit more is available for you. And then please go for a walk and feel yourself in walking. And take about a minute or two to walk around and just feel yourself walking before you come back to the camera, if you want to come back to the camera and me and the rest of the group. If you feel like this is for you all you would want to do, you want to be with yourself entirely, that's all good too. So you just continue to walk around a little bit and I'll call you back in a moment. Okay, and when you're ready to start to head back into the direction of my voice, please feel free to do that. And I can, let's see, I'm going to let people ask, since we ended up not having over 100 because of the problem with Zoom, it allows me to take a few comments or questions. So maybe if you just want to actually literally raise your hand, I'll kind of watch through the screens and then I'll unmute you. Don't see anybody here on, okay, Ona.
Just hi.
Orna.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Hi. Thank you so much.
brilliant. Really, I'm gonna start following you. The first time that I'm taking a session with you. Beautiful, beautiful. I felt
Oh,
grounded in the end and connected, and amazing, amazing lesson.
oh,
It
good.
felt really good, really good.
I'm so glad to hear that. Where are you from, Orna?
Oh, Israel originally. Yes,
Israel.
right now in Portland, in Oregon.
In Portland, Oregon? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Thanks. Thank you
So
for
yeah, so
sharing.
I'll follow you and thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
Yes, thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay. Who else? Questions, comments, objections? Ernesto, let me unmute you and
Mm. Thank you very much. Thank you for this class. It was amazing, and we feel so good after the session. I have a question about the sensation that I had in my feet the first time that I put the feet on the wall. When I first put the left foot, uh, it felt much easier to move for the first movement, the first pushing. It was much easier with the left one than with the right one, even though I am right-handed and I feel that my dominant leg is the right one. So why would you say that it's easier or it feels easier with the leg that would be less able, let's say?
mm. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to be a little awkward here because I'm having to do some weird things with Zoom on pinning your videos up or down. Um, so, it's really hard to say without watching and taking a look at you walking and how you're functioning in the world. But um, it could be that because you rely on your right leg so much, your left leg is just your left foot, your left leg is not as stiff.
Mm.
Could be that it's not as stiff. So that would be probably my only idea at the moment. But yeah, you're going to notice those things, and they'll kind of, when you're first noticing these differences, they can be kind of like so bizarre to notice that they can be almost overwhelming, and you want to figure them out. But I understand that because I have those moments just still after 20 years. But I would also just encourage you that it's just another input that you can use, that your brain, your nervous system can use underneath the radar to help make further changes and to grow your curiosity. The more you can grow your curiosity about the whole thing, then the more you have a chance for change. More you have the chance for change. Let's see here. Make
Thank you
sure.
very much.
Yeah,
Good
sure.
night from Turkey.
Oh, Turkey. Wonderful. Great. Thank you. And let me find, I have to go back and mute you again so we don't have too much confusion. Oh, looks like you did it. Okay. Thank you. Who else wants to comment or have a question? Betsy, and then I'm going to go to the next page after this, Betsy, in case somebody's on page 2, 3, or 4. Yes.
Hi, thank you. That was a great lesson. I was wondering if you could speak to, I found it a very different intention when you brought in the wave versus just pushing through the foot for kind of a straight transmission of force, which was what I was doing at first. So the events in my pelvis and the events in my head happened at the same time. And with the wave, I was pushing through my foot differently. And there was a timing aspect to coming up through my spine. And I know that there's a benefit there. And I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, so there's another process in Bones for Life called axis, AXIS, in which we interpret the motion going through in a stacked spine where the stack stays stable or the curve stays stable. But in the wave, we are actually looking to restore the individual motion, the individual vertebra's ability to articulate in relationship to each other. So in axis, the way that you naturally interpret it at first, and some people do that and some people don't, the vertebra stay in relationship to each other throughout the whole chain, basically the same. And it is a different way of pressing through the foot. And Betsy, and it's also a different intention. It's both of those things, as you said. Then in wave, the vertebrae are actually moving in relationship to each other. So there's a little bit of play, and we need both um, interpretations. We need both of those interpretations to be available to us at different times. So when you are doing a jumping or running motion, you need much more of an axis interpretation in the spine. When you're walking, some aspects of dancing, love making, these are times when you would often have more of a wave kind of orientation in your spine. Okay, I'm going to flip over here to, thanks for that question. I'm going to flip to page 2 just so I don't ignore them, and then I'll come back, Richard. So anybody here on my next group? Looks like Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Cynthia. I love that lesson, and it's so makes clear to me because I have scoliosis how different, because it's the 4 quadrants to me. My left lower part is very wavy, and my left upper is not very wavy. And because you separated it in that way, it made it very clear to me, which often a lesson I don't notice it. That was very interesting.
Okay, good. Thank you. And you've done this, you did this with me like 15 years ago, right?
Right.
You've been playing with that movement off and on for 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. So I'm going to do one more from page 2. If there's somebody else on here in page 2, no? Okay, and then I'm going to go back and grab Richard. Okay. Just don't want to ignore those other pages. Okay, Richard, and someone.
That someone is Roberta. She was in the other room doing it on her machine.
Wonderful.
I wanted to thank you. I have some lower back pain and arthritis and stenosis and the whole thing. This was a very worthwhile addition to Feldenkrais. I found it worthwhile. Roberta, you want to? No comments. Okay. I wanted to thank.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I love the Feldenkrais work a great deal, and at the same time, I feel that it's important to have more than one way to interpret things. And for me, Ruthie Allen's work, it's like she just took a kaleidoscope. She just changed the focus maybe, or the something on the dial, just a tiny hair, and then opened up a whole new world for me. So I appreciate hearing that. So, and for anybody who happens to be interested, I do have a Bones for Life training program beginning later this year. I think it'll be probably quite different than I expected it to be, but it's supposed to begin at the end of July and the beginning of August. We'll probably redo a lot of things about the format and the dates, depending on what happens with our current situation around the world. But if you happen to have an interest in that, you could just email us support@futurelifenow.com, and we'll be happy to chat with you about that or give you any information on it. I'm looking through the pages here again. Danielle, there you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. So thanks again, like everyone else, I really appreciate the lesson. For the last movements where we were pushing against the wall and feeling it and then moving the chin, I had felt that the natural movement for me would be, as I press against the wall, my chin would be going down, but I believe you were saying the chin should be lifting. Mm-hmm. So should I be deliberately trying to lift my chin then?
Yeah, you want to experiment some with the deliberate lifting. So you have a natural tendency to go towards axis, and that's fine, but you know to have both available movements. So you will have to train yourself to allow yourself the possibility of also having a wave, Danielle. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, anybody else? Kind of keep your hand up a little long while I flip through and make sure I don't miss you. Okay, I saw someone. I missed it. I had it, and then I lost it. Lisa.
Hi there. Thank you for the lesson. I'm
Can you speak up
curious.
a little bit?
What?
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Sure. Can you describe the difference in the focus between Bones for Life and Feldenkrais?
Can I describe the difference in the focus between Bones for Life and Feldenkrais? Yes, thank you. I can. I feel like the Bones for Life work is much narrower skeletal work, and it's not trying to have near the lifelong exploration of all things human. It's more of a set of bite-sized processes. So in the Feldenkrais work, we have over 1,000 lessons. Can always be created more using the principles of it. And I think the work is profound, and it has a profound hands-on piece as well as the movement piece that we call awareness through movement. But I have to be honest, I don't know if I was ever going to get for myself the pieces around posture, around the reorganization of my low back that I got with Bones for Life through the Feldenkrais work. I think it would have been possible if I had been given certain very specific sets of awareness through movement processes, but Ruthie has just honed it down to these 90 movement processes that just keep feeding back in around a central theme, which is really where is the strength of the spine? It's across the front of the spine. How do we find that? How do we help people find that from their hands, from their feet, from various different positions? It's much less oriented towards flexibility, which the Feldenkrais work tends to stress more, and instead oriented towards how do you, at the most basic level, interpret pressure going through your joints.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I think saw someone else with a hand a minute ago, and then I lost my vision of them. Let me just double check. Okay, I guess that looks like that's it. And we've got some wonderful comments over on the side too. Let me just take a look at that. Lots of thank yous. I appreciate that. There is going to be a recording later, and we're really sorry that you got in at the end, Irina. We don't know. I really did upgrade. I spent so much time on Help Zoom this week. I was 600 in the queue for 5 days in a row, and finally got up at 6 in the morning one morning and was 200 in the queue. And every 10 minutes I just typed, I am here, I am here, I am here, because they kept kicking me off, and I got in. And I thought I did everything right, but they're really struggling under the weight of what we're all asking them for right now. Mary Beth said, I have tendinopathy pain in my left ankle and was pleased to feel no discomfort in pushing the left foot on the wall and felt well balanced and grounded, and no discomfort in standing and walking. That's wonderful. And that she might take up crawling so she can feel how that would do for her shoulders and wrists. Yeah. And so, the Bones for Life work starts with some very basic, simple things. They're only just like 5 minutes long, like bouncing on heels and different forms of alignment. And then we, towards the more advanced, we do things like tiger crawling, tiger walking, we call it, or practice falling. We practice regaining equilibrium in different kinds of ways. So it has a kind of a nice range without maybe being it's not as comprehensive as Feldenkrais. I mean, you can't, everything fits into Feldenkrais. There's just nothing you can't fit into it. But it is a little more, I think, manageable for more people to probably train in Bones for Life, in time-wise and money-wise and etc. But I love it all, and I can't possibly tell you how much I love the Feldenkrais work, or I wouldn't be sponsoring the Feldenkrais Awareness Summit. So, okay. I want to thank you all for being with me. and very much. And we'll get a replay on this out later today. And hopefully, and there's actually quite a bit more to this process. Usually you'd teach it 3 or 4 times over the course of a few sessions, but I think you got a really good flavor of it. And I'm going to try to do another one next Friday. And hopefully I'll actually have this 500 thing figured out. Yes, I'm going to try to do another one next Friday. If people aren't so angry about it that they don't want to try to sign on, I hope they will anyway. And then hopefully I'll get all this issue with size worked out. So, and then we'll know it. We'll be ready for the summit. So it can serve many purposes. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cynthia.
See you, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Thank
Good.
you.
Good to see all of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yes,
Thank
yes. Thank you, Ellie.
Very much.
Sure.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Good.
Beautiful class.
I'm glad. Wonderful.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy as much as we do.
Oh, yeah, I do. I do. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so very much.
Bye-bye.